First contact. The sleek starship Horizon glided silently through the inky void of space, its hull gleaming under the light of unfamiliar stars. Inside the ship's conference room, Captain Elena Reyes stood before her assembled crew, her dark eyes scanning their faces with a mixture of pride and determination. "We're about to make history," she began, her voice steady despite the nervous energy thrumming through her veins. "In less than an hour, we'll be the first humans to set foot on Zephyria, home world of the Aetheri. Our mission is simple, but crucial. Establish peaceful relations and negotiate an alliance that will benefit both our species." Dr. Amit Patel, the team's xenobiologist, raised his hand. "Captain, what do we know about the Aetheri's physiology and social structures? Our preliminary data is still quite limited." Elena nodded, appreciating his thoroughness. "Good question, Dr. Patel. The Aetheri are a highly advanced silicon-based life form. They communicate primarily through bioluminescence and have a hierarchical society based on intellectual achievement. Their technology surpasses ours in many areas, particularly in energy production and terraforming." She paused, allowing the information to sink in. "However, they've shown little interest in space exploration or expansion. That's where we come in. Our adaptability and drive to explore could complement their technological prowess." Lieutenant Jack Foster, the team's security officer, leaned forward with a frown. "And what if they see us as a threat? Humans don't exactly have the best track record when it comes to peaceful coexistence." Elena met his gaze steadily. "That's why this mission is so important, Lieutenant. We have a chance to show the Aetheri, and ourselves, that humanity has evolved beyond our violent past. We're here to build bridges, not burn them." As if on cue, the ship's AA chimed in. "Captain, we're entering Zephyria's orbit. The Aetheri High Council is hailing us." Helena took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. "This is it, team. Remember your training, stay open-minded, and above all, represent the best of humanity. Let's make first contact." The descent to Zephyria's surface was smooth, the planet's swirling purple atmosphere parting to reveal a landscape that took their breath away. Crystalline structures stretched towards the sky, their facets reflecting the light of twin suns in a dazzling display. Between these towers, rivers of what appeared to be liquid metal flowed, pulsing with an inner light. As the Horizon touched down on a designated landing pad, Elena felt a mix of awe and trepidation. She led her team down the ramp, the alien air tingling against their skin despite their protective suits. Waiting for them was a delegation of Aetheri, tall, slender beings with iridescent, translucent skin that seemed to shimmer with patterns of light. Their large, multifaceted eyes regarded the humans with an unreadable expression. The leader of the Aetheri delegation stepped forward, its body pulsing with blues and greens. A device on Elena's wrist translated the light patterns into speech. "Welcome humans to Zephyria. I am High Counselor Zix. We have long observed your kind from afar, curious about your rapid technological advancement despite your volatile nature." Elena bowed slightly, careful to maintain eye contact as their cultural briefing had stressed. "High Counselor Zix, we are honored by your welcome. I am Captain Elena Reyes of Earth. We come in peace, seeking to learn from you and to offer our own unique perspectives in return." Zix's body flickered with what Elena hoped was interest. "Perspective is indeed something your species seems to have in abundance. Come, let us move to more comfortable surroundings for our discussions." As they followed the Aetheri into a nearby structure, Dr. Patel whispered excitedly to Elena. "Captain, did you see how their bioluminescence changed when you mentioned learning from them? I think we've piqued their curiosity." Elena nodded, allowing herself a small smile. It was a promising start, but she knew the real challenges lay ahead. The interior of the Aetheri building was as alien as its exterior. The walls seemed alive, shifting and reforming as they walked. They were led to a circular chamber where the floor itself molded into seats for both humans and Aetheri. High Counselor Zix began the formal introductions, each member of both delegations stepping forward in turn. When it came time for Lieutenant Foster to introduce himself, Elena noticed a sudden tension in his posture. "With all due respect," Foster said, his voice tight, "how can we be sure this isn't some elaborate trap? Your technology clearly surpasses ours. What's to stop you from simply taking what you want from us?" A ripple of alarmed red pulsed through the ethery delegation. Elena's heart sank, but before she could intervene, Zix responded, "An interesting question, Lieutenant Foster. One that reveals much about your species' mindset." Zix's lights pulsed slowly, thoughtfully. "We ethery value knowledge and harmony above all else. Conflict and domination are inefficient paths to progress. We seek to understand you, not conquer you." Elena seized the moment. "High Counselor, if I may. Humanity's history has indeed been marked by conflict, but also by tremendous growth and learning from our mistakes. It's precisely because of our past that we now reach out to you with open hands and open minds." She gestured to her team. "Each of us represents a different facet of human knowledge and experience. Dr. Patel, our xenobiologist, is eager to learn about your unique biology. Engineer Sarah Chen is fascinated by your incredible technology. And yes, even Lieutenant Foster's caution serves a purpose. It reminds us to proceed thoughtfully and to earn trust rather than assume it." The chamber fell silent for a moment, the only sound the soft hum of the living walls around them. Then, to Elena's relief, Zix's body began to glow with a warm golden light. "Your words are wise, Captain Reyes. Perhaps there is more depth to your species than we initially perceived. Let us proceed with these negotiations in a spirit of mutual learning and respect." As the formal talks began, Elena allowed herself to relax slightly. The first hurdle had been cleared, but she knew there would be many more to come. Cultural misunderstandings were inevitable, and the gulf between their species was vast. Yet, as she watched Dr. Patel animatedly discussing cellular structures with an ethery scientist, their bodies leaning towards each other in shared fascination, she felt a spark of hope. Perhaps this unlikely alliance could work after all. Humanity had come seeking new knowledge and new allies among the stars. On this avian world, under the light of unfamiliar suns, they had taken their first steps towards that goal. The rest of the day passed in a whirlwind of introductions, presentations, and careful negotiations. By the time the twin suns began to set, bathing Zephyria in an ethereal purple twilight, both delegations were mentally exhausted but cautiously optimistic. As the human team prepared to return to their ship for the night, High Counselor Zix approached Elena. "Captain Reyes, we have prepared quarters for your team within the city, if you would like to experience more of our culture during your stay." Elena hesitated, aware of the security implications, but also recognizing the olive branch being extended. After a quick consultation with her team, she nodded. "We would be honored, High Counselor. Thank you for your hospitality." As they were led to their new accommodations, the true alienness of Zephyria became even more apparent. The city itself seemed alive, buildings shifting and reforming as needs changed. Streams of data flowed visibly through the air, accessible to the ethery through their bioluminescent communication. Elena caught Lieutenant Foster eyeing their surroundings warily. "Stay sharp," she murmured to him, "but remember why we're here. This is a chance to build trust." Foster nodded, his posture relaxing slightly. "Understood, Captain. I'll try to see opportunities instead of just threats." Their quarters turned out to be a fascinating blend of ethery and hastily adapted human design. The rooms pulsed with a soft, soothing light that responded to their moods and needs. As the team settled in for the night, Elena found herself standing by a window, gazing out at the alien cityscape. The enormity of their mission weighed heavily on her shoulders. They were not just explorers or diplomats, but representatives of their entire species. The decisions made here could shape the future of both civilizations for generations to come. With a deep breath, she turned back to her team. "Get some rest, everyone. Tomorrow, we continue to make history." Building bridges. The following days on Zephyria were a whirlwind of diplomatic meetings, cultural exchanges, and technological demonstrations. Captain Elena Reyes and her team worked tirelessly to find common ground with the Etheri, despite the vast differences between their species. One morning, as Elena prepared for another round of negotiations, she found Dr. Amit Patel practically vibrating with excitement outside her quarters. "Captain, you won't believe what I discovered," he exclaimed, his eyes wide behind his glasses. The Etheri's silicon-based biology allows them to interface directly with their technology. It's not just advanced, it's a seamless integration of organic and artificial intelligence. Elena smiled at his enthusiasm. "That's fascinating, Dr. Petal. But how does this help us build our alliance?" Amit's grin widened. "Don't you see? This could revolutionize our own technology back on Earth. Imagine neural interfaces that could help paralyzed patients move again, or enhance our space exploration capabilities. The potential is enormous." As they walked to the meeting chamber, Elena considered Amit's words. Finding mutual benefits was crucial to solidifying their alliance. Perhaps this could be the key. The day's negotiations began on a tense note. High Counselor Zix's bioluminescence pulsed with concern as they addressed the human delegation. "While we appreciate your species' enthusiasm, we have reservations about sharing our bio-integration technology," Zix stated. "Your history suggests a tendency to weaponize scientific advancements. How can we be certain you won't use our knowledge for destructive purposes?" Lieutenant Foster bristled at the implication, but Elena held up a hand to forestall his objection. She took a moment to choose her words carefully. "High Counselor, your concerns are valid. Humanity's past is indeed marked by conflict, but it's also defined by our ability to learn and grow." She gestured to her diverse team. "Look at us, descendants of nations that once warred against each other, now working together for the greater good. We've learned that cooperation yields far greater rewards than conflict." Elena leaned forward, her voice earnest. "We don't seek your technology to create weapons, but to heal, to explore, to push the boundaries of what's possible. In exchange, we offer our greatest strength, our adaptability and innovative spirit." The Etheri Council members flickered in rapid communication with each other. Finally, Zix spoke again. "Your words are compelling, Captain Reyes. Perhaps a demonstration of this innovative spirit would help alleviate our concerns." Elena nodded, sensing an opportunity. "We would be happy to demonstrate. What did you have in mind?" Before Zix could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the chamber. The walls pulsed with urgent red light as an Etheri aide rushed in, its body flashing with distress. "High Counselor, we're detecting massive seismic disturbances in the southern polar region. The harmonics plant is at risk." Zix's luminescence dimmed with concern. If the harmonics plant fails, it could destabilize the entire planet's core. Elena stepped forward without hesitation. "High Counselor, let us help. This is our chance to prove ourselves as allies." For a tense moment, Zix was silent. Then their lights pulsed with decision. "Very well, Captain. Let us see what your species can do in a crisis." Within minutes, the human team was boarding an Etheri transport alongside a group of local scientists and engineers. As they sped towards the southern pole, engineer Sarah Chen pored over the schematics of the harmonics plant that the Etheri had shared. "It's incredible," she muttered, her fingers flying over her datapad. "They're using crystalline structures to channel and amplify the planet's natural resonance, keeping the core stable. But these earthquakes are disrupting the harmonic flow." Elena nodded, her mind racing. "All right, team, we need solutions. How can we adapt our knowledge to help?" Dr. Patel spoke up. "Captain, remember our research into using sound waves for geological surveys? Perhaps we could modify that technology to reinforce the harmonic frequencies." "Good thinking," Elena said. "Sarah, can you work with the Etheri engineers to integrate that into their systems?" Sarah nodded confidently. "It'll be a challenge, but I'm on it." As they approached the harmonics plant, the severity of the situation became clear. The crystalline structures were fracturing under the strain of the seismic activity their usual melodic hum replaced by a discordant shriek. The next few hours were a blur of activity. Humans and Etheri worked side by side, racing against time to stabilize the planet's core. Sara and her Etheri counterparts scrambled to adapt the human sound wave technology, while Amit worked to enhance the efficiency of the Etheri's bio-integrated controls. Even Lieutenant Foster found a way to contribute, using his military training to coordinate the evacuation of non-essential personnel from the danger zone. As a particularly violent tremor shook the facility, Elena found herself working alongside Zix to reroute power to the main harmonic amplifiers. "I must admit, Captain," Zix's lights pulsed with a mix of strain and admiration. "Your team's ability to adapt to this crisis is impressive." Elena managed a tight smile as she reconnected a series of crystals. "It's what humans do best, High Counselor. We thrive under pressure." Just when it seemed the situation was hopeless, Sara's voice rang out over the comms. "Captain, we've done it. The modified harmonics are stabilizing the core resonance." A cheer went up from both humans and Etheri as the discordant shriek of the crystals gradually shifted back into a soothing, melodious hum. The violent tremors subsided, leaving behind a profound sense of relief. As the crisis passed and the teams began assessing the damage, Elena found herself standing beside Zix, both of them gazing out over the now calm crystalline landscape. "Your people have given us much to consider, Captain Reyes," Zix said, their luminescence pulsing thoughtfully. "Perhaps there is more value in our differences than we initially believed." Elena nodded, feeling a glimmer of hope. "That's what alliances are all about, High Counselor. Complementing each other's strengths, supporting each other in times of need." As they prepared to return to the city, Elena couldn't help but feel that a significant shift had occurred. The crisis had forced both species to work together, to trust each other in ways that no amount of formal negotiation could have achieved. She looked at her team, Sara excitedly discussing engineering concepts with her Etheri colleagues, Amit carefully examining a piece of fractured crystal with childlike wonder, and even Foster engaged in what appeared to be a friendly exchange of military tactics with an Etheri security officer. These were the bridges being built, not in council chambers, but in moments of shared purpose and mutual respect. As they boarded the transport, Elena allowed herself a small smile. They had come to Zephyria seeking an alliance. Instead, they might have found something far more valuable, the beginnings of true understanding between two vastly different species. The journey back to the city was filled with a newfound sense of camaraderie between the humans and Etheri. As they disembarked, High Counselor Zix approached Elena, their bioluminescence glowing with a warm golden hue. "Captain Reyes, your team's actions today have spoken louder than any words could. We would like to formally invite you to continue our discussions, as friends, not just as diplomatic envoys." Elena felt a swell of pride and hope. "We would be honored, High Counselor. I believe this is the beginning of a partnership that could benefit both our peoples immensely." As they walked together towards the council chambers, Elena knew that while many challenges lay ahead, they had taken a crucial step towards a future where humans and Etheri could stand side by side, exploring the mysteries of the universe together. Unlikely heroes. The weeks following the harmonics plant crisis saw a dramatic shift in the relationship between the human delegation and the Etheri. Formal negotiations gave way to more collaborative discussions, with both sides eager to learn from each other. One evening, as Elena reviewed the day's progress in her quarters, she was interrupted by an urgent message from Earth Command. Her heart sank as she read the contents. "Team, gather in the common area immediately," she called out over the intercom. "We have a situation." Once everyone had assembled, Elena took a deep breath before addressing them. "I've just received word from Earth. A previously undiscovered asteroid cluster is on a collision course with both Earth and Zephyria. Our scientists estimate impact in less than a month." A heavy silence fell over the room. It was Lieutenant Foster who spoke first, his jaw set with determination. "What are our orders, Captain?" Elena met each of their gazes in turn. Our mission has changed. We're no longer here just to form an alliance. Now, we need to work with the HFY to find a way to save both our worlds. Dr. Patel raised his hand, his brow furrowed in thought. Captain, if I may, the HFY's advanced terraforming technology, combined with our experience in space mining operations, might offer a solution. Elena nodded. Good thinking, Amit. Sarah, I want you to work with Dr. Patel and the HFY engineers to develop a plan. Foster, coordinate with Earth Command and the HFY Defense Forces. We need to be prepared for all scenarios. As the team dispersed to their tasks, Elena made her way to the HFY High Council chambers. She found High Councillor Zix already waiting, their bioluminescence pulsing with concerned hues. We have detected the asteroid cluster as well, Captain Reyes, Zix said without preamble. This threat concerns us both. Elena nodded gravely. Indeed it does, High Councillor. I propose we combine our knowledge and resources to face this challenge together. Zix's lights flickered in agreement. Yes, I believe that is wise. Come, let us gather our best minds and begin planning. Over the next few days, the harmonics plant that had once been a source of crisis became the center of feverish activity. Humans and HFY worked side by side, their different approaches to problem-solving creating a synergy none had anticipated. Sarah and her HFY counterpart, a brilliant engineer named Lux, focused on adapting the HFY's terraforming technology into a device capable of altering the asteroid's trajectory. Dr. Patel worked with HFY biologists to enhance the device's power using principles of their silicon-based biology. Lieutenant Foster, much to everyone's surprise, formed an effective partnership with the HFY Defense Chief, Vox. Together, they strategized contingency plans, mapping out potential impact sites and coordinating evacuation procedures on both planets. Elena found herself in a constant whirlwind of activity, moving between Earth Command, the HFY High Council, and her team, ensuring all parts were working in harmony towards their common goal. As the days ticked by, tension mounted. The asteroid cluster loomed ever closer, its massive bulk now visible in Zephyria's night sky like a malevolent new constellation. Finally, with less than a week before projected impact, Sarah and Lux presented their solution to the assembled human and HFY leaders. We call it the harmonic deflector, Sarah explained, her eyes bright with a mix of excitement and exhaustion. It uses principles similar to the harmonics plant, but on a much larger scale. Lux's bioluminescence pulsed in sync with Sarah's words as they continued the explanation. By generating a powerful resonance field, we can disrupt the asteroid cluster's cohesion, causing it to break apart and disperse. High Councillor Zix's lights flickered with concern. The energy requirements for such a device would be enormous. How do you propose to power it? It was Dr. Patel who answered, stepping forward with an HFY scientist. We've developed a way to channel the combined core energy of both Earth and Zephyria through a network of specially grown crystals. It's risky, but we believe it's our best chance. Elena looked to Foster, who nodded grimly. If this fails, we've coordinated with both HFY forces and Earth's Space Command. We're prepared to evacuate as many as we can to safe zones. A heavy silence fell over the chamber as the full weight of the situation sank in. They were about to attempt something never before tried, with the fate of two worlds hanging in the balance. High Councillor Zix's bioluminescence pulsed with a determination that needed no translation. Very well, let us proceed. Together we face this threat, and together we shall overcome it. The next few days were a blur of frantic activity. The harmonic deflector was assembled in orbit between Earth and Zephyria, a massive structure that melded the best of both species' technology. On the surface of both planets, teams worked tirelessly to establish the crystal network that would channel the needed power. As the hour of reckoning approached, Elena found herself on the bridge of an HFY ship, coordinating the final preparations. Beside her stood High Councillor Zix, their usual cool demeanor replaced by an intensity that matched her own. All teams report ready, Captain. Lieutenant Foster's voice came over the comm. Harmonic deflector is powered up and awaiting your command. Elena took a deep breath. Acutely aware of the weight of two worlds resting on her shoulders, she glanced at Zix, who nodded almost imperceptibly. Initiate the harmonic deflector, Elena ordered, her voice steady despite the tension coursing through her. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, a beam of pure energy burst forth from the device, so bright it was visible from the surfaces of both planets. It struck the approaching asteroid cluster, enveloping it in a shimmering field. Agonizing seconds ticked by. Elena held her breath, her hands gripping the console so tightly her knuckles turned white. Beside her, Zix's bioluminescence pulsed rapidly, a visual representation of the anxiety they all felt. Suddenly, Sarah's excited voice crackled over the comm. It's working. The cluster is breaking up. A cheer erupted on the bridge, echoed by similar cries of joy from Earth and Zephyria. On the viewscreen, they watched as the once solid mass of asteroids began to fragment, the pieces scattering harmlessly into space. As the danger passed and the reality of their success sank in, Elena turned to High Counselor Zix, a smile of relief and triumph on her face. "We did it," she said simply, "together." Zix's body glowed with a warmth that needed no translation. "Indeed we did, Captain Reyes. Perhaps this is the true beginning of our alliance, not born from negotiations, but forged in the crucible of shared adversity." As the ethery ship began its descent back to Zephyria, Elena looked out at the stars, marveling at how much had changed in such a short time. They had come seeking diplomatic ties and instead found partners, allies, and friends. The threat they had faced together had done more than save their worlds. It had shattered the barriers between their species, opening up a future of possibilities neither had imagined before. As they touched down on Zephyria's surface, greeted by cheering crowds of humans and etheri alike, Elena knew that this was only the beginning. Together, there was no challenge they couldn't face, no frontier they couldn't explore. The universe, with all its wonders and dangers, awaited them, and now they would face it united. Breaking barriers. In the months following the asteroid crisis, the alliance between humans and etheri flourished in ways neither species had anticipated. The shared triumph had broken down walls of mistrust and hesitation, replacing them with a genuine desire for cooperation and mutual understanding. On a bright Zephyrian morning, Captain Elena Reyes stood before a mixed audience of humans and etheri, her heart swelling with pride. Today marked the official opening of the first joint Human-Etheri Research Institute, a tangible symbol of their newfound partnership. Today, we stand not as separate species, but as fellow explorers of the cosmos, Elena began, her voice carrying across the gathered crowd. This institute represents more than just a sharing of knowledge. It's a testament to what we can achieve when we embrace our differences and work together. As she spoke, Elena caught sight of her team in the audience. Dr. Amit Patel was practically bouncing with excitement, while engineer Sarah Chen beamed with pride. Even Lieutenant Foster, usually stoic, wore a satisfied smile. High Counselor Zix stepped forward, their bioluminescence pulsing with warm, inviting colors. "Let this institute be a beacon of hope and progress for both our peoples. Here, we will learn from each other, challenge our preconceptions, and push the boundaries of what's possible." The ribbon-cutting ceremony that followed was a blend of human and etheri traditions, symbolizing the merging of their cultures. As the doors of the institute swung open, Elena felt a surge of optimism for the future. However, as the weeks passed, it became clear that building a truly integrated society would not be without its challenges. One afternoon, Elena was called to mediate a heated dispute between a group of human researchers and their etheri counterparts. She entered the lab to find Dr. Patel engaged in an animated discussion with an etheri scientist named Vex. "Is there a problem here?" Elena asked, taking in the tense atmosphere. Dr. Patel turned to her, frustration evident in his voice. Captain, the Etheri insist on using their bio-integrated systems for all our joint projects. But some of us aren't comfortable with the idea of directly linking our minds to their technology. It feels invasive. Vex's bioluminescence flickered with what Elena had come to recognize as irritation. Our methods are far more efficient and precise. Why should we compromise our standards to accommodate human limitations? Elena held up a hand, silencing them both. I think we're losing sight of the bigger picture here. This institute was founded on the principle of collaboration, not competition. We're here to learn from each other, not force one way of doing things. She turned to Dr. Patel. Amit, I understand your concerns, but have you considered that this discomfort might be an opportunity for growth? Perhaps there's a middle ground, a way to adapt the Etheri systems that feels more natural to humans. Then, addressing Vex, she continued, and Vex, efficiency isn't everything. The human approach, while sometimes slower, often leads to unexpected discoveries and innovations. There's value in both methods. As Elena spoke, she could see the tension in the room beginning to dissipate. Dr. Patel nodded thoughtfully, while Vex's lights pulsed in a pattern that suggested consideration. Why don't you work together to develop an interface that combines the best of both approaches? Elena suggested, something that respects human autonomy while still leveraging Etheri efficiency. It could be a breakthrough that benefits both our species. The idea seemed to spark excitement in both parties. Soon, the lab was abuzz with renewed energy as humans and Etheri began brainstorming this new hybrid system. Similar scenes played out across the Institute in the following weeks. Cultural misunderstandings and clashes in working styles were common, but with patience and open communication, they were gradually overcome. Elena found herself constantly amazed by the innovative solutions that emerged from these challenges. Human creativity combined with Etheri precision led to advancements neither species could have achieved alone. One evening, as Elena was reviewing progress reports in her office, she received an unexpected visit from Lieutenant Foster. Captain, do you have a moment? He asked, looking uncharacteristically uncertain. Of course, Jack. What's on your mind? Foster hesitated before speaking. I've been thinking about my behavior when we first arrived on Zephyria. My suspicion, my reluctance to trust the Etheri. I was wrong. Elena smiled softly, appreciating his honesty. We all had doubts at first, Jack. It's natural when faced with something so different from what we know. Yes, but... Foster paused, collecting his thoughts. Working alongside Vox and the other Etheri defense personnel, I've come to realize something. Our differences aren't weaknesses to be guarded against. They're strengths to be celebrated. He chuckled ruefully. Can you believe it? I'm starting to sound like one of those cultural integration pamphlets. Elena laughed, feeling a warmth in her chest. It suits you, Jack. Personal growth looks good on you. As Foster left, Elena reflected on how far they'd all come. The barriers between their species were breaking down, not just on an institutional level, but on a personal one as well. The next day, Elena was invited to observe a joint training exercise between human and Etheri security forces. As she watched Foster and Vox lead their mixed teams through complex scenarios, seamlessly blending human adaptability with Etheri precision, she felt a surge of pride. This was what they had come here for, not just to exchange knowledge, but to truly understand and complement each other. Every challenge overcome, every barrier broken, brought them one step closer to a future where humans and Etheri stood as true equals and allies. As the exercise concluded, Elena addressed the assembled teams. What I've seen here today gives me hope for our future. You've shown that our differences can be our greatest strength when we work together. She paused, looking out at the sea of faces, human and Etheri, each unique yet united in purpose. Remember this feeling, this unity. Carry it with you in all your interactions, for it's not in grand gestures, but in these daily collaborations that we truly build our alliance. As she finished speaking, a spontaneous cheer erupted from the crowd. Humans and Etheri alike raised their voices, and in the case of the Etheri, their bioluminescent displays, in a show of solidarity. Elena felt a lump form in her throat. They still had a long way to go, many more barriers to break, but in that moment she knew they were on the right path. Together, humans and Etheri were forging a new way forward, one that promised a brighter future for both their worlds. As she left the training grounds, Elena's mind was already racing with new ideas for fostering this spirit of cooperation across all aspects of their burgeoning alliance. The barriers were breaking, and in their place, bridges were being built, bridges that would carry them into a shared future filled with limitless possibilities, forging bonds. As the seasons changed on Zephyria, casting the crystalline landscape in new hues, the relationship between humans and Etheri continued to evolve. What had begun as a tentative alliance was blossoming into something deeper, more profound. Captain Elena Reyes found herself at the heart of this transformation. Her role had expanded beyond that of a diplomatic envoy. She had become a bridge between two worlds, helping to guide both species through the complex process of integration. One crisp morning, Elena stood before a mixed class of human and Etheri students at the newly established Interspecies Academy. The eager faces before her filled her with hope for the future. Today, she began, we're going to explore the concept of empathy across species. It's not enough to simply tolerate our differences. True understanding comes from actively trying to see the world through each other's eyes, or sensory organs, she added with a smile, nodding to the Etheri students. As the class engaged in exercises designed to help them experience the world as the other species did, Elena was struck by how far they'd come. Just months ago, such an idea would have seemed impossible. After the class, Elena was approached by a young Etheri named Lyra, their bioluminescence pulsing with curiosity. Captain Reyes, I have a question about human emotions. How do you express feelings without bioluminescence? It seems so limiting. Elena chuckled. It might seem that way, but humans have developed many ways to express our emotions. Through facial expressions, body language, tone of voice, and of course through our actions. She paused, considering how to explain further. Here, let me show you. Elena smiled widely, her eyes crinkling at the corners. This is how we often express joy or happiness. Lyra's lights flickered rapidly, a sign Elena had come to recognize as excitement. Fascinating. The way your facial muscles contract, it's like a physical form of bioluminescence. The conversation was interrupted by Dr. Amit Patel, who approached with an Etheri scientist Elena recognized as Zara, one of the lead researchers at the Joint Institute. Captain, Amit said, barely containing his excitement, we've had a breakthrough in our bio-integration project. Zara's bioluminescence pulsed in sync with Amit's words, a habit the two had developed during their close collaboration. We've successfully created an interface that allows humans to experience a form of bioluminescent communication without invasive procedures. Elena's eyes widened. That's incredible. How does it work? As Amit and Zara launched into a detailed explanation involving neural mapping and photon emission, Elena marveled at how in sync the two scientists were. Their partnership was a perfect example of what could be achieved when their species worked together. Later that day, Elena found herself in a strategy meeting with Lieutenant Foster and his Etheri counterpart, Vox. The two had been working on integrating their defense systems, a delicate task given the sensitive nature of military technology. We've made significant progress, Foster reported, a hint of pride in his voice. The Etheri early warning system, combined with our tactical response protocols, has increased our overall defensive capabilities by 200%. Vox lights pulsed in agreement. Indeed, Jack's innovative approach to crisis management has also greatly enhanced our evacuation procedures. We are stronger together than we ever were apart. Elena couldn't help but smile at Vox's use of Foster's first name. It was a small thing, but it spoke volumes about how far they'd come. As the day wound down, Elena found herself walking through the gardens of the Interspecies Academy with High Counselor Zix. The garden was a beautiful blend of Earth and Zephyrian flora, symbolizing the harmony they were striving to achieve. "I must confess," Captain Reyes Zix said, their bioluminescence glowing softly in the twilight, "when your ship first arrived on Zephyria, I had my doubts about this alliance. I feared our differences were too great to overcome." Elena nodded, understanding all too well. "I think we all had our doubts, High Counselor. Change is never easy, especially on this scale." "Indeed," Zix agreed. "And yet, observing the bonds forming between our peoples, I find myself filled with hope. Is that the right word?" "It's a perfect word," Elena said warmly. "Hope is what drives us to build a better future, even when the path isn't clear." They paused before a flowering plant, its petals shimmering with bioluminescence, while its leaves reached towards the setting suns. It was a hybrid, Elena realized, a perfect fusion of Earth and Zephyrian life. "Look at this plant," Elena mused. "It's not just surviving, it's thriving, taking the best of both worlds and creating something new and beautiful. That's what we're doing here, isn't it?" Zix's lights pulsed in a pattern Elena had come to recognize as agreement. "A poetic analogy, Captain, and an apt one. Our alliance is not about erasing our differences, but about finding strength in them." As they continued their walk, Elena reflected on the bonds that had formed over the past months. Dr. Patel and Zara, pushing the boundaries of science together. Foster and Vox, former adversaries, now close friends and comrades. The students at the academy, human and etheri alike, learning to see the world through each other's eyes. These were more than just professional relationships or diplomatic ties. They were genuine connections, friendships that transcended the boundaries of species and culture. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting the crystalline structures of the city in a warm, golden glow. Elena felt a profound sense of contentment wash over her. There were still challenges ahead, of course. Integrating two vastly different species would never be without its difficulties. But as she looked out over the city, seeing humans and etheri walking side by side, working together, learning from each other, she knew they were on the right path. The bonds they were forging here, bonds of friendship, of mutual respect and understanding, were stronger than any treaty. They were the foundation of a shared future, one that held endless possibilities. As the first stars began to twinkle in the Zephyrian sky, Elena made a silent promise to herself. She would continue to nurture these bonds, to bridge the gaps between their species, to forge a future where humans and etheri stood together as true allies and friends. The journey ahead was long, but with every connection made, every barrier broken, every bond forged, they moved one step closer to that bright, shared future. And Elena couldn't wait to see what wonders it would hold. A new frontier. 1 year had passed since the horizon first touched down on Zephyria, as Captain Elena Reyes stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Harmony Station, a joint human-etheri space platform orbiting between Earth and Zephyria. She marveled at how far they had come. The station itself was a testament to their alliance, a perfect blend of human ingenuity and etheri bio-integrated technology. It served as a hub for scientific research, cultural exchange, and as a launching point for their joint space exploration efforts. Elena's comm device chimed, displaying a message from Dr. Amit Patel. "Captain, you're needed in the main conference room. It's time." With a mix of excitement and nervous anticipation, Elena made her way through the station's corridors. Humans and etheri worked side by side, their interactions now smooth and natural. The sight filled her with pride. As she entered the conference room, she was greeted by familiar faces. Dr. Patel and his etheri partner Zara were huddled over a holographic display. Lieutenant Foster and Vox were engaged in animated conversation, while High Counselor Zix's bioluminescence pulsed with anticipation. "Captain on deck," Foster announced, a hint of a smile on his usually stern face. Elena waved away the formality. "At ease, everyone. Let's get started." Dr. Patel stepped forward, his eyes shining with excitement. "Captain, we're ready to present our findings on the anomaly we detected in the Andromeda Galaxy." Zara's lights flickered in sync with Amit's words as she continued. Our combined long-range sensors have picked up evidence of a stable wormhole. We believe it could be artificial in origin. A ripple of excitement passed through the room. The implications were staggering. Evidence of another advanced civilization, possibly even more ancient than their own. High Counselor Zix spoke, their bioluminescence pulsing thoughtfully. If these findings are accurate, we stand on the brink of a monumental discovery, one that could reshape our understanding of the universe. Elena nodded, her mind racing with possibilities, and potentially introduce us to new allies or new challenges. Lieutenant Foster leaned forward, ever the pragmatist. Or new threats. We need to approach this carefully. Vox lights flickered in agreement. Indeed, but approach it we must. Our combined strengths make us uniquely qualified for this endeavor. Elena looked around the room, seeing the determination and excitement on every face, human and ethereal alike. This was why they had formed their alliance, to face the unknown together, to push the boundaries of what was possible. Well then, Elena said, a smile spreading across her face, it seems we have a new mission. Let's prepare a joint expedition to investigate this wormhole. The room burst into activity, with teams quickly forming to handle various aspects of the mission planning. Elena felt a surge of pride as she watched humans and Etheri seamlessly collaborate, their different perspectives and skills complementing each other perfectly. As the initial excitement settled into focused determination, Elena found herself standing next to High Counselor Zix, both of them gazing out at the stars through the conference room's large viewport. Did you ever imagine we'd come this far? Elena asked softly. Zix's bioluminescence pulsed with what Elena had come to recognize as amusement. Truthfully, no. When your ship first arrived on Zephyria, I feared it might lead to conflict. Instead, it has opened up the galaxy to us. Elena nodded, understanding the sentiment all too well. We've learned so much from each other. And now, we're about to take our first steps into a much larger universe together. Indeed, Zix agreed. Our alliance has proven that diversity is not a weakness, but our greatest strength. Together, there is no challenge we cannot overcome, no frontier we cannot explore. As they turned back to join the mission planning, Elena felt a profound sense of optimism for the future. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with potential dangers and wonders beyond imagination. But they would face it united, human, and Etheri standing side by side. In the days that followed, as the expedition took shape, Elena found herself reflecting on their journey. From those first tense meetings on Zephyria to the seamless cooperation she now witnessed daily, they had come so far. They had faced crisis together, broken down barriers, forged deep bonds, and now stood ready to leap into the unknown. The day of the expedition's launch arrived all too quickly. As Elena stood in the Harmony Station's docking bay, watching the final preparations for their joint mission, she felt a familiar mix of nervousness and exhilaration. This was what she had joined the space program for, to explore, to discover, to push the boundaries of what was known. Dr. Patel approached, his excitement palpable. Can you believe it, Captain? We're about to embark on a journey our ancestors could only dream of. Elena smiled, sharing in his enthusiasm. It's incredible, Amit, and we're doing it together, as true allies. As the crew, a mix of the brightest minds from both Earth and Zephyria, boarded the expedition ship, Elena took one last look around the station. Humans and Etheri watched from the observation decks, united in their support and hope for the mission's success. With a deep breath, Elena stepped onto the ship. As the airlock sealed behind her, she felt as though she was closing one chapter and opening another. Whatever lay beyond that wormhole, be it wonders or dangers, new allies or unimaginable challenges, they would face it together. As the ship detached from the station and set course for the anomaly, Elena took her place on the bridge. Around her, humans and Etheri worked in perfect harmony, their differences now a source of strength rather than division. All systems go, Captain, Lieutenant Foster reported from his station. We're ready to make the jump to light speed." Elena nodded, a smile playing on her lips. "Then let's not keep the universe waiting. Engage." As the stars stretched into streaks of light around them, Elena felt a profound sense of hope and purpose. They were no longer just humans or ethery, but explorers, allies, friends, united in their quest to understand the cosmos and their place within it. The new frontier awaited, vast and full of promise, and together there was nothing they couldn't achieve. Humanity indeed had proven itself, not through dominance or superiority, but through the very qualities that made them human: adaptability, curiosity, and the capacity for growth and understanding. In reaching out to the stars, they had not only found new allies, but had also discovered the best within themselves. As the ship hurtled towards the unknown, Elena knew that this was only the beginning. The greatest adventure, for both humans and ethery, was just beginning.